Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Daniel Miller, and I'm one of the medical directors of Hospice of the North Coast. I'm so thrilled to be able to start a video log exploring topics in palliative care and also hospice care. I'm very passionate about these topics, so I hope that you can gather and explore these topics with me. Today, I want to be able to talk about a concept that I've been thinking a lot about. It's more of a paradigm, actually, called ring theory. I want to give you a little bit of a context behind it. I was thinking and reflecting on our patients and family and friends that have had the experience of having a terminal illness. And then I had a question. I had a question for myself that I wanted to answer, which is, how does a partner of a person who has a terminal illness respond to that person with a terminal illness? So I wanted to reflect on that. And I wanted to see what qualities a partner should have in response to that. How should they be there for that person who has that new diagnosis, a life-limiting diagnosis? What I realized was that question was inadequate in itself, because I limited it to only one person, which is the partner. But I didn't take into account that there's a relationship in that, a couplehood, a dyad, sometimes we call in psychology. So I expanded my search and reflection to involve couples meaning and couples work. And I've created a blog that I've since published in Psychology Today, exploring exactly that issue, which is, how does a couple deal with a terminal illness when one of the partners has a terminal illness? So that became more of a passion of mine recently. One of the things that I've explored is that paradigm of ring theory. If you haven't heard of it, ring theory essentially states that the person who's at the center ring, and if you take the example of one internal ring and you imagine external rings around there kind of orbiting that central ring, where the central ring is the person who has a terminal diagnosis or just has a terminal diagnosis, just was diagnosed. All of the central rings, all of the concentric central rings around, they're friends, they're family. And depending on your relationship to that central ring, to that person with a diagnosis, that's your distance from that source, from the core. So the immediate central ring around that person, that's the central ring. It could be the immediate family, your kids, your parents. This concentric ring around that could be your close friends. The concentric ring around that could be your medical team, could be your hospice team. Whatever actually it means for you, because that's the thing. Relationships are all different, and only you know what that meaning that person holds for you or that team holds for you. So I wanted to explore that ring theory paradigm and what it means. And essentially what that paradigm states is that comfort has to always flow into the core. So comfort, nurturing, understanding, reflection, ability to empathize, ability to help process, always has to go in from the outside rings to the inside rings. It makes sense. On first blush, if I was the one with a terminal illness, I would need as much processing and help from my loved ones as humanly possible. It's difficult enough as it is to be able to understand it for myself and process it on my own without having the support of somebody close to me. But it would definitely help to be able to have that support from somebody who's in my immediate outer ring, such as my wife. So that is essentially the concept of ring theory. I gave it some exploration, and I thought, that's incredible. How would I be able to advise somebody to be able to help somebody else in times of need? because a lot of people don't know how to show up and be present. And I was thinking that's a good start. That ring theory is a wonderful way to explore how a partner who has a terminal diagnosis can be helped by their loved ones in their ability to process, in their ability to cope. One of the things that I do hear is that there's amazing positives when we look at that. Some people, for example, some partners are so enthralled with their ability to give to their partner and to be able to help them cope and nurture that they just find that paradigm to be super filling. Some of the negatives in that paradigm, and I just want to go over with you, are as follows. I think in the immediate stages of having a terminal diagnosis or of having any significant trauma, without doubt, one needs to have the support of their family. It's imperative. I think once somebody has had a chance to cope, however, it becomes difficult to be able to have that family member or a friend who's close to you not be able to share with you the difficulties that they have with the diagnosis. So the concept of ring theory essentially states that comfort only flows in, but all of the negatives that you feel from the concentric rings can't flow in. They have to remain into the outer circles. They have to be, quote, dumped out. And that kind of creates a little bit of a challenge because as a couple, as people in a committed relationship, loving relationships of whatever form, people want to share. And they have a hard time limiting themselves to only being able to set a positive tone. Because as you know, couples and relationships go through a lot. There's no just positive affect. Relationships are difficult. And being able to only express positives is at best superficial and doesn't take into account the complexity of a relationship. And I think, giving it more reflection, when a partner who has a terminal illness has had a chance to cope and process, they want to be able to grow and mature and still have the negatives that we would call negatives of the difficult emotions and the feelings that their partner has. I think they want to be able to process it with them. So that ring theory, I think, is a good start. Comfort in totally works, I think, initially. Dumping out, I think, works initially as well because the partner with the terminal illness has to have that support and nurturing. However, it has to be nuanced and it has to be thought of in a complex fashion. And whatever that is will work for you. But just comfort in, it's probably not going to do it completely in a committed relationship that's a loving relationship, where growth, nurturing, and acceptance of who we really are is at the forefront. We want to have that comfort, but I think we also want to have that challenge and complexity that's built into all relationships. And as much as I want to support completely ring theory, I mostly support good communication, whatever that is for you. But complexity of relationships, I think, deserve good communication. And if ring theory works, that's wonderful. And if it doesn't completely, I'll totally understand that as well. So for this venture, for this initial video log, I leave that with you. And till next time on other topics in palliative care and hospice. Thank you.